selling Weymouth Portland was probably the easiest thing we had to do to the international federations. You were beamed around the world in front of 4 billion people over the course of last year, and I have to say, I don't think that there were any shots from the games that compared to some of the television footage that was beamed around the world.
Chesil Beach, centre of the World Heritage Jurassic Coast. Behind it is the Fleet Lagoon and a narrow isthmus linking the Isle of Portland to the mainland. A rope-hauled ferry was the only practical link until a bridge was built in 1839. The narrow isthmus remained in its natural state until the Navy started infilling and developing the tidal mere in the early 20th century. The next change came on the approach to D-Day in World War II, when the United States military filled in part of the creek to make a holding park for thousands of vehicles awaiting departure for the assault on France in 1944. After the war, this flat land became a large car park for the public, but the area still remained in its flat, undeveloped state. But Chesil is now celebrated by this interpretation centre, opened in 1994 by Lord Mansfield, the Crown Estate Commissioner, the Mayors Brenda Dench and Nesta Hunt.
Very nice to see you. No, thank you. Nice to be here. Hello.
It's lovely, isn't it? Great. Ladies and gentlemen, we're delighted to finally be officially opening the Chesil Beach Centre, the Fine Foundation Chesil Beach Centre, on such a lovely day. We've been operating the centre for about a year now, so it's high time we had an official opening, and it also coincides, of course, with the anniversary, almost with the anniversary of the sailing events of the 2012 Olympic Games.
The construction of this Chesil Beach Centre has been long in planning. We have now new interpretation displays about this fantastic area. The new centre was finished in time for the start of the Olympic and Paralympic Games last year, and is truly a long-term legacy for Weymouth and Portland, and as a new gateway to the island of Portland itself.
Developing here an area which is right in the centre of one of the most biologically diverse parts of the British Isles. Nowhere could be more diverse, and that's of course recognised with the Jurassic Coast, but on the back of that is a whole wealth of plant and animal species and of marine life which provides this environment, and indeed proud that the Dorset wildlife has been able to play such an important role in the development of this centre.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real privilege for me to be here today to represent the South West Committee of the Heritage Lottery Fund, who did indeed give half the money towards this building. This locality is extraordinary. It provides such a unique span of our heritage. I cannot believe there's probably anywhere else in the world quite like it, because there's this exceptional combination of the landscape and the geology going back to 70,000 years. There's the legacy that we know so well of rich environmental habitats, the marine life, exceptional quality and in abundance, and now we have our modern heritage. I think we need to remember that we are creating heritage all the time, just as happened here last year.
Can I first of all thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. It seems barely credible that as we sort of home in on the anniversary of the opening ceremony, and And we're barely 45 weeks beyond the closing ceremony of the Paralympic Games that really did change a lot of public attitudes to all sorts. It is barely credible when I also think that it's about 13 years ago that three of us sat in a pub in West London thinking this might be quite a good idea. And on the eve of an opening ceremony, about a year ago now, we looked at a project that had 8,500 people in the organising committee. A project that employed nearly 400,000 people beyond London and the organising committee. The most extraordinary volunteers that the Olympic movement has ever witnessed. And it's worth remembering that the first games to introduce the concept of volunteers and ambassadors was in London in 1948. And the second games I competed in 1984 in Los Angeles, for very similar reasons, utilised the volunteers again. So we went from 48 to 84 without the volunteers. Volunteers suddenly then became a part of the fixture, the landscape, from 84 onwards. And of course, the difference between London being a good games and a great games was in large part the volunteers and the ambassadors that met people at the airports and frankly switched the lights off when they all went. And I would just like to pay tribute particularly to you guys, who I know what a splendid job you did here. And so many people left Weymouth, Portland, charmed and warmed and wanting to come back, which was part of the objective as well. We also ended up with a project that put the best part of £7 billion of funding into the British construction industry. You might remember the Wagnerian weather that we had here this time last year when the torch came through, but there were 8,000 torchbearers covering 8,000 miles and charming communities in over 1,000 different locations, hamlets, villages, towns and cities. When you think that it was 8 years and 12 days ago that we won the right to stage the Games in Singapore, and I said just a few minutes ago, unveiling a plaque at the marina, that selling Weymouth Portland was probably the easiest thing we had to do to the international federations. The easiest sell was Weymouth Portland, and I unashamedly repeat what I said a few moments ago. When we said that we wanted to stage a Games, the International Sailing Federation and everybody that knew anything about the sport said, that's great, we'd love to see a Games in the UK, but you do realise that we won't support you unless you go to Weymouth Portland. And that was a fantastic message of confidence for us. And people say to me, whenever I come to Weymouth and Portland, you look so relaxed. The reason I'm so relaxed is the quality of the teams that brought to bear and delivered a Games here were preeminent. You know, the very fact that this was the first world-class venue to be completed, and not just, you know, touching up walls, you know, within hours of the opening ceremony. We had this place up and running, you had this place up and running, the local community had this place up and running, you know, years before the Games. So that's in a way my way of saying thank you. But the broader message, of course, is that I only ever saw this as a 20-year journey. 2 or 3 years to crisscross the world and win the right to stage the Games. 8 years, 7 years, 8 years to deliver the Games, and then the 10 years beyond the Games to capture everything we witnessed last summer and in the lead up to last summer, and to go on delivering strong and tangible and meaningful legacies for local communities. And if you'd said to me, as I came back from Singapore and sitting on that runway waiting for the plane to leave for London, with the thought that, you know, we had 7 years of Herculean effort in front of us, that within 44 weeks of a closing ceremony of the Paralympic Games, I would be coming to somewhere like here and opening a facility that is absolutely cast in legacy. It is everything we went to Singapore for, and I'm witnessing that across the country. And that is really what the next part of this journey is about. It's the toughest part of the journey. We shouldn't kid ourselves. The toughest part of the Olympic journey will be the next 10 years. but we've made an extraordinary start, and my way of thanking you for endorsing everything that we believed in when we went to Singapore to win the right to stage the Games. You were beamed around the world in front of 4 billion people over the course of last year, and I have to say, I don't think that there were any shots from the Games that compared to some of the television footage that was beamed around the world, particularly from the nose, and the way that the sailors performed way beyond even what we expected them to do. So this is a very happy day for me to be back and thanking all of you for that extraordinary effort and support that you gave us, and leaving behind me something that is so tangible, that goes way beyond just the 3 weeks of sport, and I hope will touch communities and young people, and I'm hoping that you will be here with your grandchildren in many years to come and enjoying the efforts of all the people that are around here. Help is just totemic of the way the Games were put together, and totemic of the spirit that will survive those Games for the next 10 years. So thank you very much for everything you've done. You've made me very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Hopefully made it very easy for you. Yes. It should just slide off quite neatly.
Hey, Wen.
We're gonna...
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Sorry.
I didn't recognise you there.
Oh, yeah.